All right, guys, please tolerate the new appearance. I'm trying to learn to tolerate it myself. It's like a Matilda slash Cat Williams. Today, and speaking of that, how's this for a tangent? We're trying to avoid that. But yeah, this sweater's been through some stuff. I just got back from training. In my opinion, some of the best training attire is the most functional, is stuff that's been through some things with you. It's got some seasoning, right? So I'm superstitious about this sweater. We've done some pretty good things in it. First one that comes to mind, a good morning, 455, right? I believe 3 or 4 reps wearing this thing right here. But back on track, today I want to talk about getting a coach. When should you get a coach? How do you find a coach? But I guess we have to start at the very beginning, like the ground level. I think for most people, just doing something, even if it's not all the way correct, is a wonderful place to start. I think, the vast majority of successful physiques you see out there, that's precisely how they started. They just got started and basically they never stopped. So we get rolling this way, and eventually, you change one thing for another, and you see that gives you better outcomes. And if once you start to realize this, then you see some value in spending some time outside of the gym, not just sleeping, getting your food in, but study time. And I think whether it's monetary or your time, you have to have some skin in the game. So basically, when I first got rolling with this, a lot of my spare time outside of the gym was pretty much dedicated to soaking up as much information as possible. Sometimes, actually quite often, not even sometimes, like most of the time, I'd get those phone calls Friday night from friends, and it's like, no thank you, I'm busy, I got plans. My plans were really to just stay at home and hang around in message board forums, is what we had at the time, and try to learn from people who knew more than I did at the time. So as much as there's a lot of conflicting information out there, there's a lot of just information in general. Learning how to learn is super important, and this will pay off later once we get into the whole, finding a coach, selecting a coach. But this is very important. Such an underrated skill. Me personally, in my opinion, I think the first few years of college, your undergrad, that's what it's really spent on. It's almost like learning boot camp. It's like learning how to learn. So this skill, super important. Eventually, the more you practice it, again, you're going to have to dedicate some of your time. You're going to have to make time for this. It won't be as difficult to navigate this space filled with information that sometimes can be overwhelming. So you have to do your homework, you have to study, and that's just how it goes for anything in life. After that, I'd say it's probably a good idea to have a mentor. And mentors take very different shapes and forms. My first mentor was young man, 19 years old. I was 16, but when you're that age, 3 years is a huge difference. He was a personal trainer at the gym, my first gym that I went to. And personal trainers at this gym just kind of came with the membership. They just kind of sit there floating around, supervising. If anything, if you told them, ask them if they could take you through a workout, they'd be happy to, because otherwise they'd just kind of be standing there waiting for clock out time. So this guy Otto was my first mentor. He taught me how to just simply use the free weights, because the machines, I was good at those. But in the free weight area, felt a little intimidated. And, time has gone on, and Otto's really not into fitness the way he was before. And obviously I've continued my trajectory. You could argue taken this too far, and and I know more than him. And that's basically how you should view your mentors. It should be one of those things where you outgrow them. But that's an excellent way to start out, is to just say, like, hey, go pick this guy at the gym's like brain. Oh, this dude's got some great delts. Look, it's not always perfect, but it's a starting point. And as you learn how to learn, you can better decipher whether the information that someone is giving you is valid or worth a try. So yeah, grab yourself a mentor. I remember my first set of mentors were just, I guess, the science geeks of back in the day. And here's the secret. Here's how to get mentors to basically give you some of their free time. For me, what I would do is I would never ask them remedial questions. You know, things like, do I weigh my chicken breast raw or cooked, right? It was things that wouldn't be on the first layer, things that weren't necessarily lazy questions. Questions where by the time I arrived to them with my question, to them it was very obvious that I had tried really hard, and that's why I was stuck at this point. So they spend time on me, and they would remember me, because from their perspective, they're like, oh, I can totally see why, you know, kid got stuck at this point, right? And how he kind of fell into like this rabbit hole, and why he needs my help. And it was very flattering to them that I wouldn't ask them a question, especially the bigwigs. You'd be surprised how many people you can reel in with this tactic, until I had done a lot of the legwork on my own. And by the time I got to them, it wasn't the chicken breast question. It was something that, again, it was very clear to them, because they understand this world, why I ran into trouble, why I was understanding the material until I got to this point. So mentors are everywhere, and very naturally, you'll just kind of graduate from one to the other, and they can sense, especially the good ones, once you make it up a few levels, they can sense when your curiosity is genuine, and when you have when you're not, it's not just going to be something that they say and, you know, is forgotten the next day. They can sense that. So they're everywhere. You'd be surprised, again, like what sort of big names you can reel in with this tactic. So from there, okay, it's like, you know enough, right? You did your homework early on. You have a few years in the gym. You've had some mentors. For the most part, you kind of know how to get things done and you know, progress in just about any direction you'd like. You get really far with just what I've said so far. But you want something more. You want something more custom. You want someone to take the conflict of interest out of the equation. And this is where today in 2024, the way I would, you know, if I was a wide-eyed newbie who had followed the first two steps, right? Get all the free stuff you can, you know, find some mentors, you know, keep monkey branching basically from one mentor to the next. Be thankful always for like whatever they did teach you. Like Otto, my first mentor, to this day, like I hold him right here. But yeah, you've gotten to the point where, hey, you know, maybe you're a little bit older, a little bit more disposable income. What I would do is I would make finding a coach a 6-month minimum project. I would have a few candidates that I really like, and I would try to basically make my study time, which should be something standard at this point, just something you do, revolve around whatever they're putting out or whatever they have put out in more recent times, right? Because everyone is allowed to change their mind on things. And from there, see, via my own scrutiny, who I think is making the most sense. So that's the first layer. There's two more things I'd probably look for. The second one would probably be, and I think this is important, this is how you tell if someone cares, is how much of their information, how much are they trying to lend a hand to make this world a better place to live in, right? Not that saying that they're super accessible, that they're putting everything out there, but clearly this person cares because they're putting things out there that really just give you that vibe of like, oh, they really give a fuck, right? So, and you can learn from it too. So it kind of helps out with my first point. And then finally, the last thing I would look for is look at their portfolio of athletes and try not to get too caught up in the outliers, right? The genetically elite of athletes that they might have, which is just something that happens once you're decently established as a coach. You will all of a sudden get handed these really big, important, sensitive projects. You didn't really earn them. They kind of came to you this way, and you're just trying to help them refine things, because at these high levels of competitive bodybuilding or powerlifting or any sport, it's a game of inches, right? So everything matters. So look at their average, folks. Average to below average, and see what they're able to do with these people. I think that is where you will see just how brilliant they truly are, like when it comes to talent. Yes, you do some things for them, but there's a lot of managing when it comes to talent, a lot of helping them mostly not get in their own way. So yeah, 6-month project. I would make that, these candidates you have during the 6-month leg of your journey where you're interviewing coaches. They don't know they're being interviewed, but you are. Look at their stuff, their more recent stuff. I'd say a year, maybe 2, and then see if they're, aside from this, like putting other stuff out there, right, where you can tell that they clearly, like, their heart's in the right place. They're not just here to make a buck. They want everyone to be doing a little bit better. And then, yeah, final step is like, hey, like, what happens when the rubber meets the road? Look at their genetically average to below average athletes, see what kind of work they're able to create with those. And the reason I say these, and again, most of us are average, and some of us below average. And if you're not, well, guess what? Whatever they are doing is surely going to work on you, who, maybe you're a little bit more gifted, or maybe you're not just below average, but you feel like it's really hard for your body to do anything. Look at, again, that part of their portfolio, the lower responder folks, because that'll tell you whether they're doing good work or not, and whether they're likely to do good work on you when it comes to your situation. Finally, I guess I have to talk about this. There are probably, there's a zone of beginner coaches. They don't have a lot of experience, because ideally you do want someone who, like, hey, they have the smarts, they understand the basic principles, they're great educators, but you also want experience. You can have a few folks out there that they're lacking experience, and they don't have the resume, they don't have the portfolio yet, but they got the smarts out there. And I think especially for those of you guys where, hey, a coach is a bigger financial deal, that's probably a great place to start. I was once one of these coaches where, when I got someone, I'm like, yay, thank you for giving me a chance. I swear I'm gonna work my butt off, because that's one thing these coaches will do for you. They will work their butt off because they're the new kid in the block, and they want to really, make it known, build a reputation that it's like, hey, I do good work. So I've been there. So sometimes don't, it's important to not completely ignore this population of coaches. I was, at some point one of these, and sometimes these newer coaches, yes, they're lacking experience, but at the same time, quite often, because they're not necessarily married to they don't have a track record of success, when it comes to their own coaching history, they also tend to think outside of the box a little bit better. So don't forget about these coaches. But yeah, I hope that helps someone out there who's, maybe feels left out, because it's like, do I need a coach? Seems like everyone has a coach. No, you can totally take advantage, leverage all the free information that's out there. You can also have some really good mentors that almost serve as coaches for you, but you got to put in the legwork. Just like I mentioned, no lazy questions. Don't shoot them the chicken breast question. And then finally, when you're ready and you can absorb the cost of a coach, it's probably a good idea to take your time. Again, 6 months minimum is what I would go for at this point. So yeah, hopefully that clears up the waters a little bit for you guys. And hey, you need a coach, hey, don't just hire us. go through our stuff for a few months. I can't go without this. This is my last thing I say. I swear I can go on this topic forever. Yeah, if you're really about this again, being able to fork over, whether it's time or money, like when it comes to this hobby, it should not hurt. And I'm not saying go do something stupid financially. I mean more so when it comes to the doing the legwork of like learning how to learn, right? Like trying to collect mentors. I guess I just see too many young people, speaking of frail sweater, it's like you spend more on supplements than, and gym attire, especially these days, than like you do on your education. And that to me is so incredibly backwards and nearsighted. So whether it's time or money, you're going to have to invest in your education, most likely, unless you're just like this freak of nature that anything works for. That's the only way you're going to get the most out of yourself, if that's something you're genuinely interested in.